All right, welcome. Episode 5. Get on this shit podcast. Another episode. Welcome. All right, happy to have you guys here in the den, the quarantine den. I'm safe from all of you disgusting sick people. That was a song called Barricade by a band called Interpol, and they were formed in 1997, so they've been playing for years and years and years and years. And they were really like, when the indie scene was big in the early 2000s, that's when they were like kings of the indie scene. Like a lot of people think of Arcade Fire when they think of indie, but these guys were really like, if you were actually into indie music, you would know, everyone knows who Interpol is. They're, like I said, formed in New York, 1997. They had a few name considerations before they stuck with Interpol. They also thought maybe Las Armas as a name, or the French letters, which, yes, they both sound very indie, but I think they went with a good decision with Interpol. They get a lot of comparisons made to them, a lot of comparisons to 70s and 80s post-punk bands. So I don't know if you were familiar with Joy Division, but that's the one they're most familiar with, related to. And also Echo and the Bunnymen. I don't really know who those people are, or that group is. And the Smiths. So the vocalist has a very like, he enunciates all the lyrics very clearly, and it's a very kind of very unique sounding voice. And they also really have great bass lines. So if you like bass in your music, then they're really good for that. If you're gonna listen to one album to kind of get you into what they're all about, the best album for that is called Turn on the Bright Lights. It was created in 2002, so right when they were starting. I find a lot of groups, their best album is either their first or second one, just because they're starting out and they're hungry just to be, you know, like they just want to kind of figure out their own identity in terms of a band, and they just want to make it, so they're so hungry to create something that's different, that hasn't been heard before. And I think that as a band there's always that danger of becoming there's just always that danger of getting comfortable in your own style, and then not being hungry anymore to like really take risks creatively. So very unique vocals, but I think they do kind of fall under that genre of band that they never really like explored outside of their creative box. So it could be argued that a lot of their songs sound the same. Like after a while, like if you gave me different songs from different albums, I wouldn't know which album each song went to, because they never really change their sound. So I'm sure they get a lot of criticism for that, but once again, their sound is so unique, and it's so purely indie that like I can't really imagine them doing anything else than that. But definitely check them out. Like I said, that one was Barricade. That was from their album 2010, but they've been playing for years. And they're awesome if you ever want to get into indie music. It's never too late. What I was wondering is what is your level of cabin fever now? Are you frothing at the mouth yet? Have you eaten any of your relatives? I mean, it's weird because people are out less, but they're also out more because of the whole COVID thing. Like, whenever I go outside for my walk, my daily walk or run, I'm always seeing a lot of people walking around, jogging, which is nice. It's kind of like the whole Pokemon Go craze where you saw everyone outside a lot, and It was like, for once, technology is bringing people outside. But it's good. It's good that people are kind of out more, and then there's also less cars. Like there's a lot less driving around, so that's better on the environment already. And I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook and stuff of people chatting in like group chats with like Zoom and Skype and stuff like that. So I hope people keep doing that. I think that's a really good way of staying connected while we're all staying apart. I think that's kind of like the original idealist vision of social media, right? Was to like keep everyone connected and keep those lines of communication open. So it took a pandemic, but we're finally using social media the way it was meant to be used. But we're also using it in the ways that we normally do, which is just kind of spreading fear or complaining about the inequalities of life. But yeah, I've been outside more. I've rediscovered my love of jogging, I think jogging, it takes a lot of patience because you're just kind of running around. Unless you live in an area that's really, got mountains and stuff, lots to explore. For me, it's just one long road, so that can get a little bit boring after a while. But I really do recommend jogging, especially if you're the type of person who can't sit still enough for meditation or anything. Because jogging, if you want to, you can make jogging your meditation. You're just running, and because your body is doing something automatic, then your brain, you have time in your own brain to reflect on things. So, and I think it's also great for introverts. You can just put your headphones on, and that way you're outside and you're in public, but you're clearly doing your own thing, and no one's gonna hopefully bother you. So you just gotta make sure, if you're gonna wear headphones like I do, just to look around whenever you like cross streets and stuff. Just stay aware. I think that's important. But when I was jogging, I actually thought of an idea. I was talking last week about Curb Your Enthusiasm. I had an idea for an episode where Larry he gets into jogging, right? And he has headphones on, and when he's jogging, he jogs by this kid on a skateboard or on a bike, and when he's jogging by, the kid falls down and crashes. But Larry sees people around in the general area, so he just keeps running, and he just figures someone else will help him. And then he runs into someone he knows, and right after that happens, and then they're like, "You weren't going to stop for that kid?" And he's just like, "Well, there were other people in the general area, there was within a 30-foot radius." So I just thought that would be a good kind of curb scenario. So I'll just make sure to hit Larry David up on his Twitter, and that way he'll hire me, and it'll be great. What was the other? I had another idea for Curb Your Enthusiasm, was just the theory that if you ask someone their opinion, if you ask them to rate it on a scale of a 1 to 10, it's more likely that they will actually give you an honest answer rather than just asking them straight up about their opinion. That's just a theory of mine, but it could be turned into something in that show. Aside from keeping the body sharp, try to keep the mind sharp during these times of uncertainty and enclosure. I bought a few courses online because I've noticed that's something that the entrepreneurs are smart about. They know everyone's going to be inside, so they're putting all these online courses discounted, and I've seen a lot of ads for home training, resistance bands and stuff. I'm sure resistance bands are making a comeback these days. But yeah, so I bought a course on Excel program because I want to get beyond the basic knowledge of that. But what I've noticed is, with the internet comes, you can teach yourself anything on YouTube, but that makes us spoiled in our own brains, and then like we become very picky about like who's teaching us, right? And then if you don't like the necessarily the person that's talking, then it can be a real drag to try to learn from them. And of course, because I bought this program, I can't pick who the guy is. So it's there's a lot of issues I have with this guy, and I'm sure he's by all accounts a nice guy, but first of all, he has the same haircut as me, which really bothers me because I don't want to relate to this guy at all. And he also, in all the videos, has a very oily complexion. It's like he just went for a light jog before he did the videos. The worst thing is that he, because the videos they range from like 3 minutes to 10 minutes long, but he'll always, like at the end of each video, he'll end by smiling. And it's always like, all right, and next lesson we'll be looking at form tables. And then at the beginning of the next video, because he presses record, you can see the dead, soulless look on his face before he reacts to the camera. So it's like, hi guys, so we'll be talking about, and yeah, so that is just creeps me out. So I always try not to look at him at the end of each video. And he also talks to you like as if you're like a 10-year-old learning Excel. So he's always like, all right, and here's a monthly budget. Now I'm gonna put in, let's say, food, and what else? That's another thing he always does. And he's like, candy. Gotta have candy, am I right? And it's like, wow, I feel like a child right now. It's great. So yeah, trying to learn Excel, but it's quite the slog thanks to this guy. Another program I bought was coding or programming, which I really want to get into, but you know, I'm lazy. But now I have no other option, basically. so hopefully I can get that started during this time. Trying to do more productive things on the internet, trying to stay off social media as much, stay away from YouTube. There's an app that allows you to block yourself off of these sites. It's called Stay Focused. And it's great because it just limits you to like 10 minutes a day or whatever. But the only problem is that there's always like a workaround to this own thing that you set up, right? So if you do it within the 10 minutes or whatever time you have during the day, you can turn off the site, or you can just use a different browser. So like I have it set on Chrome, but I can't use it on Firefox. So I just go on Firefox and go on YouTube. But the thing about Firefox is it's like the thirstiest browser ever. It's like right away it's like, do you want to make Firefox your default browser? And it's like, buddy, I just opened you up. I'm on homepage. Let's take things slow a little bit here. And it asks every time you open it up, do you want to make your default browser? And I'm like, no. And then I check the box, do not ask me again. Thirsty Firefox. But yeah, so I'm just trying to teach myself a little bit more self-discipline. I think teaching yourself self-discipline, having your own like parent in your head, that's a big part of growing up and becoming an adult. Something I'm still learning, and sure you guys are still learning. It's not easy. There's a comedian named Paul F. Tompkins, and he does a very good bit where he opens up about saying how hard it is to be an adult. It's just one thing after another, and why can't they just come in order? They're all happening at one time. It doesn't seem fair, you know. And he talks about he was so irresponsible that he didn't make a dentist appointment for 10 years. And then his whole shtick, the whole bit is him detailing like first of all how brutal the surgery is, and how cold, like heartless the dentist is. It's like when he's like drilling, he's sticking like a needle in his gums, and then he can like, he's like he lets out a wail, and then the dentist is like, oh, was that a little cold? And so like that's a really good bit that I think you guys should check out on YouTube. It's called learning how to brush, or learning to brush. And the surgery that he has to do is where they peel back the gums and then they have to like drain all the kind of infected area out. I actually had that done when I was younger, and it's not the worst surgery in the world because I was able to like listen to music and stuff, but just the fact that they like peel back your gums is pretty gnarly. I'm glad I didn't have to like see them do it to me. I really don't like the dentist. So I gotta brush and floss and brush and floss. But yeah, Paul F. Tompkins, he's a really good, well, I don't know, I wouldn't call him a really good comedian because he doesn't have that much material, stand-up material online, and I haven't seen him live. But what he excels at is, there's a podcast called Comedy Bang Bang, and it's basically a podcast where it's like improv on the spot, and they usually, the actors that, or the comedians that come on the podcast, they usually come with characters already in their head, and then they kind of act them out. And it's made for some really great kind of unique characters in comedy, and he's definitely like, he's created the most unique characters, and the way that he like really commits to the essence of each character is really like impressive. He does one called like Cake Boss, so I don't know if you remember that show, Cake Boss, but he does like an impression of that guy, which is pretty funny. And every time someone says Cake Boss, he always repeats it, Cake Boss, before answering their question. And there's one episode in particular where he does the ghost of, okay, this is a crazy reference, but the ghost of Richard Harrow, which is a character from, oh man, I hope I can remember the name. That show about the Prohibition. I'll edit it in, but yeah, and then it's the ghost of that character. So he's already in heaven, and he describes like that there's 12 heavens, and it's just like some of the best improv comedy I've ever like listened to. So well, it's actually it's a YouTube video podcast. So I'll link that too, and you can check it out. But just like, he just keeps like looking around the room with his like one eye, and he's wearing like a face mask because half his face is destroyed. You kind of have to see the show to understand, but you don't have to see it to like laugh at the character because it's such a ridiculous character. So yeah, definitely check that out. Paul F. Tompkins. I haven't heard anything from him recently, but he's pretty active on Twitter, if you follow tweets. Speaking of podcasts, there's a really good one on CBC Radio 1. I've been listening to a lot of those podcasts recently. There's one called Spark, and it covers like basically technology and how it's changing society in different ways. They're usually around an hour, the podcasts, and you can download them straight from the site. You don't have to pay anything, you don't have to log in. It's pretty sweet. And the most recent one I was listening to was on concentration. So how do we stay concentrated? Are we losing the ability to stay concentrated? Because I know that my attention span has really narrowed in the past years. And it talks about internal and external distractions. So the external distractions is emails, the pings in our phones. Internal is whenever we have mind wandering. And the example he uses is whenever you're reading a book, and then you zone out, and then you just keep reading the pages, but nothing's entering into your mind. So you read a few pages and then you realize, oh, I haven't retained anything, and then you have to go back and reread. Like, I'm sure that's happened to you guys before. So he says that mind wandering is good because it allows for self-reflection, but if we're mind wandering too much, if we're not practicing kind of these terms, but if we're not practicing being present, then we mind wander too much, and then we're not able to be productive in our lives. And he talks about meditation and how that really helps you practice the muscles that it takes mentally to stay present and to focus on something, because it does take a lot of work to focus. I don't know if you guys have ever tried meditation before, but it's not easy just focusing on breaths. Like, I can't go more than 10 seconds without thinking about another thought popping into my head. So meditation, I think, is really helpful. Probably something I should do more of, and probably something a lot of other people could benefit from. I really didn't like the whole lifestyle ethos kind of surrounding meditation. That's kind of what turned me away from it. But I picked up a book like a year and a half ago called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, and it's a good book to kind of try to convince those type of people like me who are skeptical about it to give it a shot. You know, it says on the cover, like 10%, the 10% more happy, or the 10% happier principle, which is like, don't expect yoga to like change your life, but if you can work to something where it can make you 10% happier, then maybe it's worth trying. So I think that's a good concept. 10% happier system. So yeah, meditation, I think it's worth a shot for sure. Now, this is a very, very exciting time. This is the first episode where I actually have a guest, so I'm very excited, and it may be the best guest I will ever have. I'm surprised we were even able to get him on the show. Where do I start with this guest? Wow. He is, he's a visionary. He's a model and an example for all aspiring young YouTubers. He has over 4 episodes of podcasting under his belt. He taught everything he knows. He taught it himself. He's self-taught. He's self-made. He's got the heart of a dolphin, and he has the pessimism of a raven. He knows the benefits of coconut water, but he still refuses to drink it because of the taste. Yeah, and he's everyone's fantasy. So let's bring him out. My first guest on the show, Mr. Luc Brunet. All right. All right, Luc Brunet. Here he is. Welcome. All right, Luc Brunet. Yeah. Here he is. All right. Yeah. Welcome. Here he is, Luc Brunet. Excellent. Yeah. Well, give it up for Luc Brunet. All right. Here he is. Luc. Welcome. So, it's great to have you on the show. What do you think of the whole setup here? You like it? It's a great little place you got here. What is it, your parents' house? No, I'm just kidding. I'm in a similar situation myself, so I can't. No, none offense taken. It's a small operation, but we hope to expand soon. Well, Luc, first of all, I just want to say I really like your style. I think it's going to be hard to keep the ladies away. You're quite the boss. Where do you get your style influence from? Oh well, thanks. You know, I try. I don't know. I just try to look at whoever is coolest in the room, and then I just try to steal their style. That's excellent. Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about there. I also do kind of the same thing as you, but yeah. What else I want to know is like, how are you so great at everything you do in your life? Like, where does the greatness come from? I really want to know. Like, I want to know that scene. Well, Luke, I don't know. Greatness is something that can't really be explained or taught. It's just natural, God-given talent, along with a relentless work ethic, is just all I can tell you about success. Wow, that is some great advice for anyone that can apply generally to everyone. So, thanks for that answer. That really clears things up. Now let's talk about your podcast. I've listened to a few episodes. I'm a huge fan. You say a little too much, but that's okay. What exactly is the point of your show? I'm not trying to be sarcastic or anything. I'm just wondering. Oh, none taken at all, man. I get that question all the time, and I'm glad you're a fan. Be sure to like and subscribe. Well, what is the concept of my show? In a nutshell, it is a pop culture recommendation show, as well as a weekly thought diary for myself. So I didn't expect to get that many viewers, but obviously, as you can see, it's really exploded. And hopefully people can relate to what I'm saying. Hopefully I'm not just some nut in his parents' house. Unlike some people. I don't really know who you're referring to with that comment, but it's pretty funny. Well, Luke, this is a great chatting with you, and I wish you all the best in your continued storied YouTube career, and I hope a lot of young up and coming YouTubers can learn from you. Thanks a lot for having me.